Good morning, Guam, and thanks for starting your day the KUAM way. Of course, it's our starting lineup. Every weekday we do a Facebook Live show for you guys. And Mondays we do what's called morning meeting, where we sit down and kind of tell you what we're working on for the week. So, obviously, legislature budget, that's the big news this week.
Yeah, they're slowly but surely getting around to discussing the budget. They've got until Friday to get a budget passed.
Friday.
The first few days of it, they've been kind of going over the revenue projections, which is actually the key. They got to know how much money they're going to spend, and then after that has kind of settled down, they'll go section by section for each of the different executive agencies and go over how much they're going to allocate for their or appropriate for their budgets. And of course, the oversight chairman, I would expect from the respective agencies, will kind of push different things based on their input from
Right.
the agencies. So
So,
that
I
goes
thought
on
what
this
was
week.
interesting was right off the bat how Talina made the motion to strike, sections 20, 21, and
Yeah.
22.
Yeah.
that was kind of funny.
And you wouldn't have known, right, unless you looked it up,
Yeah.
what those sections were. And that, of course, dealt with the Guam Police Department and changing the qualifications.
Kind of a weird move.
Yeah, we never really got a full explanation as to why, because what did Janela say? It was...
Her logic was that, where the administration's logic was that the way the qualifications are set right now, it excludes people who have either the experience or the education. But I mean, I don't know. I think that the way it was knocked down with no objections, kind of. I mean, Talina just did a bill to strengthen the qualifications,
Right.
and when we asked Adelup about it, they sent a statement. They're not really doing on-camera interviews, or they weren't last week. So, I mean, the statement was about that long, and that was the logic behind it. And the thing about when you get a statement is, if you have a follow-up question, it's problematic because you're looking at a text. So, I think that was one way they limit engagement on this issue, and lo and behold, it's come and gone. So, I thought that kind of, I don't know if it's going to set the tone for the whole.
Yeah, we'll see.
Process.
You never know. You never know about these
Right.
things, and so.
So, is
yeah,
that
I
enough
expect-
time though, Nestor, to
Yeah, that seems
pass the
Well,
budget?
if you ask the Appropriations Chairman Joe S. San Augustine, it is. They've got enough time. They might have to work, overtime up until 10 at night, so 10 to 10, 12 hours a day, and it depends. It just goes, and I'm sure there's lobbying behind the scenes too, and say, hey, I'm going to introduce this, or I need you guys to vote on this, and then so we're moving along. So we'll see. I mean,
Yeah.
I remember last year, the governor, when it was Governor Calvo, he kept calling him back into
Right.
to session repeatedly, and the governor can do that.
Yeah.
She can literally have them come in and call a special session.
I'd sort of like to see, when was the budget passed last year, and then when it's going to be passed
Yeah.
at the last minute.
I mean, it's not unusual for it to go all
I
the
see.
way to the very last.
To the wire?
To the wire, yeah.
Are both governor and lieutenant governor on island right now?
I don't know.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know.
Nobody knows.
I have no idea.
I think the governor might. I heard something like she might be gone. They tag each other in, so when one comes back, hey, okay, you're. Just kidding.
My turn.
Yeah.
Also over the weekend there was that tragic story with what happened at Talafofo Falls. There was a search and rescue that was launched at around 12 o'clock yesterday for a report of a missing swimmer. And then by 3 o'clock, the rescue divers found him submerged in water. He's 50 years old. We don't have a name yet, but we're definitely going to follow up on that story.
I wonder how that happened. I mean, that's a man-made. Telephone Falls is a man-made deal.
Not sure.
And I mean, if you've been there, it's slippery. So I don't know if kind of curious. I had to do a double take with Talafofo Falls. I thought it was Tarzan.
Nope, Talafofo Falls.
Yeah.
And then I know also too, Adriana starts the trial for
Right.
The
For
Machete
Jordan,
Brothers.
Jordan Retchalop and Emmanuel Bresalop. So there was the two that were accused in the attack in Manila. I think that was in June, I think.
Right.
And so they attacked several cars allegedly that were leaving the University of Guam. One of those, of course, was former Senator Judy Guthert's former chief of police. And that, of course, started the whole
Right.
thing about the governor who said it was blown out of proportion, and yet they had all these
Yeah.
town hall
Safety, yeah.
meetings.
Pretty crazy how you blow something out of proportion, then have like 10 meetings about it.
Right, and a lot of people, came forward
Yeah.
and were concerned about safety in their villages.
And that's another thing we asked Adelube last week. Sadly we got no response. What are the takeaways from these town hall
Right.
meetings? I mean, was it just a knee-jerk reaction? Was it just something to? Because I think the first few, like, they got hit so hard at these meetings,
Yeah.
and people were frustrated, and they didn't like that it was categorized the machete attacks, and just I feel like when they categorized it as being blown out of proportion, by extension, people thought they were talking about all the crime, and so they just weren't having it.
Right.
So I'm curious to see what are the takeaways from these towns. We've had all these
Next.
meetings. What's next?
But you,
What are they
you
gonna
also
do?
talked to Teresa Philippin, and
Yeah.
she said that they're actually having their own meetings and meeting
Right.
with church leaders. So,
So there's a lot of meetings. I mean, they've had the public hall town hall meetings, and then the consul general of the FSM says after they have those meetings, basically the community and church leaders go from those public town hall meetings to the Chookies Association meetings, and they kind of like unpack everything that was covered in there. So
so again, those are just some of the stories tonight. We also have
just some, only a little.
only a little. I'm only giving you a sneak peek. We have the after party tonight,
Yep.
and who are the guests?
Our guest tonight for the after party from the Guam Federation of Teachers, Mr. Sanjay Sharma. Also, former Senator Frank Blas Jr. and from the GOP, Juan Carlos Benitez. So obviously we're going to be talking about war claims, and Sanjay had some things to say about the budget, so we'll see if we get that covered too.
The governor's office sent out a release yesterday, just basically forwarding a couple of letters that
Yeah.
the governor had sent, and then also the Secretary of Interior, was it?
Right.
Had also sent to congressional leaders, trying to get that. You know what's interesting? I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing it out there. There apparently could be up to $14 million in lapsed funds. Lester Carlson, the director of the Budget Bureau, had mentioned during one of his testimonies before. Well, they're actually in the Committee of the Whole. So he mentioned that the way it's tracking, it's a couple of months ago it was at 23 million in lapsed funds. It went down to 20 million, and it's down to 14 million. But there's only 2 months left in the fiscal year, so they'll know by the end of next month how much exactly in lapsed funds. But if it stays at 14, they've got $14 million extra to spend.
To play with?
Where might that go? we want the war claims paid, 7.5 million. Oh, that might be able to cover it. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there.
Right, yeah. So I thought it was interesting that because I guess Congressman San Nicolas had, kind of reiterated a point that he makes often, that no one was supporting him on this congressional side. So I thought it was interesting that the governor released those letters to kind of say, hey, yeah, we are. And here's some letters from way back in June.
Yeah, one of the things Congressman San Nicolas had said is that show me some proof that
Right.
You have the blessings of the Trump administration, and so those are kind of we do. Here we have the
Yeah.
Secretary of the Interior saying, please fast track this bill through Congress, and it did pass through Congress. Congressman San Nicolas got it through the House. But it's still awaiting action by the Senate.
Yeah. So hopefully tonight we can shed some light on that process, because I felt when the congressman was literally called by the legislature, there wasn't really a lot of info on like how long the Senate side of things is going to take. So Juan Carlos, I mean, he knows some people. So hopefully we'll find out
Yeah,
tonight.
you never know. There's no timeline for,
Right,
for
yeah.
when the Senate's going to take action.
Right, yeah.
So.
So. Well, hey, thanks so much for watching our morning meeting. Remember, tomorrow we got a group chat with yours truly.
What is it?
It's going to be awesome is what it's going to be.
Which means he doesn't have his guest yet.
Want to be a guest?
Let us know. Holla. All right. Thanks so much for starting your day the KUAM way. This has been a morning meeting. We'll see you. Adios.
Bye.